Stop overestimating the impact of others and underestimating your own power and impact. Hello guys, I'm Sydney Harper and welcome to My Dear Diary. So this podcast is basically just me unleashing the pages of my diary to you. It's going to be an exploration and just a brain dump of all the different things that I find interesting, the things I think about. So it could be personal development, self-help, pop culture, commentary on things I find on the internet, thought pieces, anything and everything. The name is kind of ironic because if you know me, I don't journal, at least not consistently, but my sister came up with it and I thought it was cute. So in a way, I think this will not only just be cathartic for me, but more importantly, I want this to be a place that inspires deeper conversation and a spot where people can find relatability, entertainment, and just feel like they have a community. I know community is kind of an overused word, but that's the goal. I'm excited for you to stick around and see what we discuss. So quick intro, because I don't know why you got here or how you got here, but I appreciate you for listening. I'm Sydney. I'm 25 years old. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, so I'm from the Midwest, but now I live in New York City with my triplet sisters, Savannah and Samantha, and we're actually roommates. And we also have a podcast called Third Party, and this won't replace that podcast. It will just be in addition to it. I'm also a corporate girl. I work a corporate job, but I've always had dreams of being a host and entrepreneur. So I figured, why wait for the platform to come to me when I can create it myself? Kind of just the idea that in order to be a writer, you have to write. In order to be a podcaster, you have to podcast. In order to be a singer, you have to sing. So that's the mentality I'm adopting now. So here we are. So let's get into today's topic, which I find so fitting for the first episode because I think it's something that's rarely spoken about. And it's also what inspired this entire podcast. It is the quarter life crisis, how to get out of a rut and turn rumination into action. To get personal, the past couple years since graduating college, I have been in the deepest rut of my entire life. I moved to a new city, wanted to meet new people, didn't enjoy my job, wanted to just live life to the fullest, and I just was not doing that. I think when I graduated from college, I always had this idea that I would be making things happen. Not that I was naive to think things would happen overnight and success would just happen to me and I would be thriving, but I did think that I would be doing more, and I severely underestimated the impact of that transition and just life as a whole. And I just had a strong lack of belonging or place of being every day that truly felt soul crushing. And I know that sounds so deep, but it's the truth. It felt like a weight was on my shoulders every day. And I honestly just felt like such a flop. And that sounds so dramatic, but I wasn't doing the things that I knew I needed to do in order to accomplish my goals and dreams in life. It just felt really unsettling all day, every day. And I really could not find peace. I would be out with friends and felt like, oh my gosh, why am I out here having fun when I need to be building and working on myself? Because come Monday, I'm going to be wish I had put in some more work. So I would go home, and then when I'm at home, I would be unproductive, scrolling, wasting time watching TV. It was just a vicious cycle, an endless cycle is how it felt. And in a weird way, I also found myself lacking motivation and creativity, and even felt like I couldn't connect with people. It was like I couldn't articulate myself. It was just all such a strange time in life. And I remember during this time, I told my mom, I feel like I'm going through a quarter life crisis. And I had heard this term before, of course. I've heard the midlife crisis. It's easy to figure out how those two are related, but I never really Googled or did any research. So in preparation for today's episode, I'm gonna give you a formal definition. And this one comes from the Counseling Center of Bradley University, which defines it as the following. The quarter life crisis is a period of uncertainty and questioning that typically occurs when people feel trapped, uninspired, and disillusioned during their mid-20s to early 30s. Clients may feel stuck in a dead-end job while all their friends advance their careers or wonder why they cannot seem to make romantic relationships last when members of their social group are getting married and having children. Fortunately, I haven't reached the latter part of that. No marriages or kids yet, but relate to the rest of that. And I figure this is honestly probably pretty common, even if it's not spoken about frequently amongst friends. I would venture to say a lot of people share similar sentiments, and that was confirmed by the research that I saw online. According to a LinkedIn survey, 75% of 25 to 33-year-olds have experienced a quarter life crisis. Keep in mind, I don't know how large the sample size was for this report, but I feel like that checks out. Like, these numbers don't shock me in the slightest. I would assume that Gen Z might even suffer from higher rates of discontentment, especially with the prevalence of social media helping to amplify societal pressures just based on what you see online and people accomplishing X, Y, and Z, and the way that social media is just a highlight reel, which we're all very much aware of, but it's hard to put into practice when you're mindlessly scrolling. And I do think that Gen Z does sometimes get a bad rep, especially with people saying that Gen Z wants everything, everywhere, all at once. They want it now, but they also are lacking a sense of resiliency, and when things get hard, they quit. I don't know. That's open for interpretation and up to be judged and scrutinized, because I don't know if it's necessarily completely or entirely true, but I can see how some of that could help play a part. Wouldn't make that blanket statement and say it's a fact for everyone, but it's something to consider. But what I do see is that Gen Z does portray themselves as very vulnerable, authentic, and transparent, which to me is true as opposed to a lot of other generations. But it's a weird phenomenon where they're going to cry to the internet, but might not cry to their friends. Not that people aren't open with their friends, but I think at least where I live in New York City, I think a lot of people try and put on the front that they're really happy or really career driven and that they're loving what they're doing. And that life is just like all about the hard work and really buying into that hustle culture while maybe not always feeling completely satisfied. We aren't here to draw comparisons, but these are just all facts and factors that I think really influence how people feel. But when you're in one of these deep ruts or experiencing a crisis, it can feel never ending and all consuming. And I feel like it seemingly goes on forever until you actively decide to pull yourself out from it. So maybe for some, this wake-up call is just one big, massive, drastic life event, like a loss of a job or a breakup or something that really makes you question your existence and what you're doing with your life. But I feel like for many, it's not just one moment that sparks this change, but a bunch of little things that build up over time that really have you thinking about what you want your life to look like and what you need to do to change it. At least for me, let me give you 3 events that hit hard and really prompted me to think, okay, let's reevaluate. We got to make a change. One was I saw this TikTok, and I wish I could find it now, but unfortunately I can't. And it was a girl basically saying, 22, so much promise and excitement for life, graduating college. And then fast forward and she's 27 and she says, wasted potential, working a job I hate, bored and uninspired, whatever. That's basically sums it up. And I was thinking, ooh, I don't want that to be me. But if you also didn't know, I turned 25 this year. I'm not a person who cries on my birthdays, but it does become a time where I can reflect. And this year I was just thinking, wow, I'm in my mid-20s. One of my friends said mid-20s, and that actually sent me into a spiral. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in my mid-20s. That's insane. It also put into perspective that I have been 3 years post-grad versus the 4 years in college. Like thinking that I have spent almost just as much time in the real world as much as I've been in college was insane. Because 4 years in the grand scheme of things might not be that much time. It's just a drop in the bucket when you compare it to your entire life. But it is enough time to make some life progress in whatever direction that looks like for you. And for me, I'm like, whoa, I have not done a thing. Even though perspective is everything, it was just eye-opening and really made me consider what I was doing with my life. And the last thing that actually, for some reason, really triggered me, and I don't know why, because it's pretty irrational, was one of my friends came to visit and she told my sisters and I that she thinks that she would love to be married or engaged, not married. She wants to be engaged by the time she's 26. And in my mind, I'm like, 26 is still so young. I am a child. But now that I'm thinking about it, I will have friends who are getting married and having kids, and I could be in the same spot. Again, irrational. Everyone's on their own timeline. But to think that I could just be left behind was scary. So those 3 things in combination with the immense feeling of dread every morning and every day was all I needed to think, okay, we need to make something change. As I was editing this, I wanted to come on here and just give a disclaimer because I don't want anything to be misconstrued. The crises I'm highlighting were wake-up calls only because I saw people fulfilling what they wanted for their own lives. We need to remember that everyone is on their own timeline. Everyone has their own obstacles that they have to face, and everyone's life and story and path will be different. I'm just saying what really prompted me into action and what this really illuminated was my lack of action in fulfilling my goals and dreams. Timing does not matter. I could be 60 and want to change my life around. That is irrelevant. It's all about what am I doing on a daily basis and over time to at least attempt to fulfill my goals. Just want to put that out there because 26 and unmarried, it's so normal. And even if it wasn't normalized, it doesn't matter. It's all up to you. Some people don't want to be married. Some people do. Some people want to be stay-at-home moms. Some people want to be career-oriented. It doesn't matter. It's just all about what are you doing to reach that goal. Okay, hope that was clear. And here's the thing that I think is even most important, because once you come to these realizations and have these glimpses of hope or motivation, they can be fleeting unless you're very intentional about this next step. And what I found is many people make excuses as to why their lack of consistency or the progress that they want cannot be made. And it's circumstances, not having enough time, not having enough resources. But ultimately, it's not about knowing what the next step is. It's not about not having the resources. I think the main blocker for many people is fear. And I think we need to get real with ourselves and understand what's holding us back. And I get it. I also suffer from fear of judgment. It can be fear of not following through, fear of people's perceptions, fear of just losing an opportunity. And especially when you have something to lose, this can be more specific to careers, but also relationships too, and any other thing. Let's say perhaps you have a really great tech job, but you're not feeling fulfilled at that job. But leaving that job will ultimately put you on a track to not have that guaranteed salary or guaranteed income and structure that you know you could achieve at your tech job. That's stressful, but is it worth sacrificing yourself if you're going to be feeling miserable and unfulfilled every day? And of course, let me just put the disclaimer in there. This does come with a level of privilege. If you need to support your family, you don't have an opportunity to quit your job, but you can try in other ways to elevate your life, don't get me wrong. But here's the reframe that changed everything for me. And I think it makes the decision quite clear. Your options are this. You're choosing between a guaranteed path of dread or potential of happiness. Because if you follow the track that your life is on now, that you already know you hate, that's just what you're going to end up getting. And when you start thinking that nothing changes, if nothing changes, then you're just going to be living the same life. So that really is what should spark you, because ultimately you have one life to live and you truly have nothing to lose by taking a risk, especially if you're my age and you only have to worry about supporting yourself. That should be all the more reason to take this risk sooner rather than later, whatever it may be, whether it's putting yourself out there, whether it's sliding someone's DMs, whether it's starting a creative project. Now is the time to do it. Like, even the thought of finding fulfillment and happiness is so much better to me than the thought of people judging me for whatever it is that I'm doing. The people who are judging you don't matter, and the people that are excited for you and don't really care about what you do except for you find happiness are the ones that do matter. So just look at it like that. So reframe in your mind what your options are, because when you do that reframe, you realize there really is no real choice. It's quite obvious. So let's talk about how I got out of it and the 5 things that I recommend you do in order to get out of this rut and crisis and start working towards the life that you want to live. 1, I kind of already touched on, but get real and understand that only you can save yourself. It's a scary thought and kind of stressful, especially if you don't have a reliable track record of following through on your word. But knowing that you have the potential to change your life and you are in control of your trajectory outside of other factors or circumstances is kind of freeing. You just have to fully accept that no one's going to rescue you. No one's going to put you on this path. So be deliberate about asking for what you want and working towards it. So find comfort in knowing that you have the power to transform your experience. The next thing you need to do is identify what you want and understand what's holding you back. So first thing you need to do is be extremely clear and specific about what you want out of life. Get out a piece of paper, because I've heard so much about the power of writing things down. I've heard leaders and athletes or just people in general talk about the power of scripting. So that's why I say get out a piece of paper and write it down, and write down every single thing that you want and really channel your childlike energy. What are the things that you wanted as a kid that you thought the sky was the limit that you want now? Because what I found in adulthood is people are too realistic. I think people's perspectives really have warped and have been somewhat stifled by the hardships of the world. And that's not any dig, it's quite understandable, but don't let your worldview be dampened. They think that if they can't see it, it can't be accomplished, when that is not the truth. The reason we have visionaries is because they had a vision or an idea and they made it come true. So if there are things that are on your mind, even if you aren't sure if that's exactly the direction you want to go down or what you want, if it's a recurring, persistent thought, there's a reason for that. So write it down and don't play small. Be as imaginative as possible. I recently watched this movie that my sister Savannah was actually obsessed with called The Life List. And it kind of honestly speaks to the quarter life crisis. So maybe go watch that if you're curious. But the main character had created this list when she was a child of all the things she wanted to do in the world and all the things she wanted to accomplish. But when she got into the real world, adulthood kind of hit her like a ton of bricks, and she kind of fell into this routine of working towards a life that she never wanted in the first place, which is what I don't want for you. So in the movie, obviously, she probably comes to a resolution. I actually haven't seen the whole thing. That's probably another issue. My attention span is shot. Anyway, she has to go through her life list, the list of things that she wrote when she was a child, and actually accomplish them in order to get her inheritance. So the good thing for her was she had a clear, tangible reward at the end, but there are a lot of things she had to do to get that reward. But for you, that reward at a bare minimum will be fulfillment and knowing that you did something for yourself. So all this to say is go back to your childlike self and energy when you're writing this list. Don't be jaded, be as delusional as possible, be as specific as possible, and just tuck it away. The next thing you need to do is really understand what is holding you back from thinking that you can't have it. And often when people would say, oh, I don't believe that I'm worthy or deserving or that good things can happen to me, I would think, that's not my problem. I never think that. I could be sitting in my bed all day and think, I deserve $1 million. Like, I think I deserve everything. But when I really took a step back and reflected, I understood that I was suffering from self-doubt. It wasn't that I didn't believe that I was worthy of whatever. I just thought that the things that I do or my inherent abilities weren't as good or up to par as other people currently doing it. I would compare myself to people I saw online and think, oh, they're so much better at this than me. What would make someone want to listen to me versus this person? What would make someone want to watch my outfit videos versus someone else's outfit videos? I don't know. Just random examples. You need to be brutally honest and get to the root of why you believe that something that you do can't be at the same level of someone else. Because everyone starts somewhere. Everyone has to have a first time for anything. What you have to believe is in your power. Stop overestimating the impact of others and underestimating your own power and impact. So eliminating self-doubt for me was probably the biggest thing I needed to work on. And I still have self-doubt now. I mean, I'm like, who's gonna listen to this? Who's gonna think this is helpful? But in any event, I'm still putting it out. I know I'm in my room talking to my phone, but it's still me putting out a product. So that's something I'm still working on. And yours might not be self-doubt, it might be something else, but be intentional about trying to figure out what that is and actively working to overcome that. It's going to be a continuous process, but then you can move on to step number 3, which is act now, think later. I feel like that's a Tate McRae song or album. Someone let me know, I could look it up. But you need to act now and do whatever it is and think about it and iterate after the fact. What I have seen is that people often psych themselves out from taking action because of that comparison or self-doubt, or they start getting opinions from other people and the opinions of other people make them second guess themselves. What you need to do is not tell anyone. You need to just focus in isolation and be clear about your goals. Don't get caught up with doing endless research. Come up with the initial plan and realize you can change and shift it later. Because that's something I was doing. Let me let you in on a little secret. This is the 3rd time I've recorded this episode, okay? Because the first episodes to me just weren't giving, but you can't be caught up in perfection. I'm sure I'm gonna wish I had said something differently or would think that I had left something out of this podcast, but that's just part of the process. You just need to do it. My logo and branding, probably subject to change. I just need to put something out there because this has been a persistent idea of mine for the past 1.5 years, which is really long now that I'm thinking about it, and I just haven't done it. So just take the step now, whatever it is, take the step. You don't need the perfect plan, you just need momentum. So while you have it, don't let it go and take the next step. And weirdly, I found that the more research I do, the less creative I can be. I'm gonna give you a random example, and I don't know if this is gonna resonate with you, but for me, growing up, if I was in school and had to write a paper and I would ask someone, hey, can I read your paper just for ideas or thoughts or just to understand what they said? It would have me thinking I needed to structure my paper and arguments exactly like theirs. So I think sometimes when you get caught up with the idea of making something perfect or getting as much research, you aren't looking inward and using your own thoughts and ideas to produce an original piece or do what you already know deep down that you need or want to do. Everything you have is already inside of you is what I've started to learn. And I think we all need to adopt that mindset. So just do the thing. And like I said at the beginning of this podcast, to be a writer, you need to write. To be a creator, you need to create. To be a host, you need to host. That's literally it. Obviously, if you want to be award winning, that takes extra steps, but you need to take the first step to even get to the next one. So don't get caught up in being perfect, just get caught up in doing. And let's even take this to a social example. To be a social fun person, you have to socialize with people. To be in a relationship, you have to date. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about taking that first step. And so while you're on this self-actualization journey, I don't really know if that's the right word, but we'll go with that. While you're on this journey, you need to remove hurdles. And these hurdles can be both physical and mental. Let's start with the physical. Your environment plays a huge part in your daily actions, and it's subconscious and purely physical muscle memory. So for example, when I'm working in my room, I am at my least productive because the bed is literally right behind me. If you're watching this on video, my room is for sleeping, okay? So when I need to be in deep focus, sometimes I need to take myself out of this room and go elsewhere to be more productive, whether it's at my office or a coffee shop. Just changing my environment literally changes my perspective and the amount of work that I get done. So sometimes you have to actually pack up your bag and go elsewhere. Other physical hurdles, which are drastic and hard to change, can just be the city you're in. Because as you already know, I've mentioned like 5 times already, I live in New York City. And New York City is a very specific culture. Of course, it's a melting pot and there are a lot of different kinds of people here, but I think the work culture is intense. And for some people who don't like that concrete jungle vibe paired with a lot of work, this might not be the city for you. I had a friend, an extremely hard worker, an extremely creative person, but she loved the outdoors. And New York kind of kept her trapped. Like she couldn't go on her walks. She didn't have the heat and the weather. And these are all very obvious, but these are factors that you might not take into consideration when choosing where to live because you want your social scene. Sometimes you have to take a risk and go elsewhere, but she liked the warmth. She liked doing outdoor activities. She just needed somewhere that was fresh and clean, that left her feeling reinvigorated on a daily basis. So she ended up leaving the city. Even though she did have close friends here, she had to go. And I completely respect that. So sometimes you just have to take yourself out the environment. Maybe it's going on a little trip. Maybe it's a permanent move. Or maybe it's on a daily basis, switching up your routine. Because your routine can make it easy for you to fall back on old habits or can make it harder to kind of find inspiration if you aren't switching things up. Another way I have been actually able to kind of shift my environment, which might sound kind of crazy, but if you've experienced this, you know what I'm talking about, is microdosing positive moments and feelings and experiences. So for example, a video I watch on repeat is Cheryl Lee Ralph accepting her Emmy for supporting actress in a comedy series, I think. I would know that now because this is the 3rd time I've recorded this. So you would think I would know exactly what the award was, but that's what it was for. And it was her giving her acceptance speech. And when I tell you, for some reason, when I listen to that speech, I just feel so empowered and so inspired, like I just won that award. And she gives off the feeling that she has just overcome so much to get there, and it just feels so freeing and rewarding. So when I listen to that, I kind of put myself in her environment and can feed off of her emotions. That's what I recommend you do. Watch and consume content that make you feel uplifted, that inspire you so that you can start off your day or go throughout your journey positively. Because for me, it's literally like a psychosis. I don't even know how to explain it. You just need to try it. If there's a piece of content that resonates with you, watch it. If there's a saying or phrase you have to say to yourself, like an affirmation, do that. Anything to get you in that mindset and put you on a different frequency, a positive frequency, will be of value. The last two hurdles I'll talk about, which might even be the most important hurdles, are people and comparisons. You have to remove doubters and surround yourself with believers and motivators. Not everyone is a visionary, and that is very much okay. Not everyone wants the same things out of life or even has the ideas that you might have or desire. However, if you've opened up to someone about your desires or that you're going through this rut and have explained that you want to find fulfillment and you're met with, that's unrealistic, or a job is just a job, or you are always just wanting more, be satisfied, stay far, far away from me. I'm sorry. That might sound extreme, but doubters really dampen your mood and can impact you. Of course, if someone's trying to comfort you, that's fine, but you have to realize that not everyone shares your perspective, so don't take on negative energy based on those you surround yourself with. Not everyone has the same views. They might be going through their own journey of trying to understand why they believe something's unattainable when it very well could be attainable, but that's not for you to solve.
I want to elaborate on this just a little bit more because I feel like I didn't explain it that well in these clips. But what I'm trying to say is, it's not the people who are trying to put things in perspective for you and help you out and realize that life is all about your own timeline and who are trying to comfort you. Those people are fine. It is the ones who fundamentally do not believe that the things that you want for yourself are possible and that they're outside of the realm of possibility. I feel like I just said the same thing twice, but you get my point. Those people truly project their sense of a lack on you. They're the ones who feel like you're always chasing more, or that the standards you have from people and in relationships are unrealistic, or that the goals you have for your life are impossible. Those are the people that you really need to either remove from your orbit or tune out, because it can be tiring to try and feel like you need to prove yourself, and honestly just simply annoying more than anything else. Because here's one example. I remember I was talking about my 2025 goals with one of my friends, and I was saying, oh, this year I want to make more money. I mean, hello, who doesn't want to make more money? And it's truly quite attainable. I never even gave a dollar amount. Like, that statement alone should have been enough. But the person said to me, okay, that just shouldn't be a goal. Like, that should not be your goal. As if what I was saying was insane or materialistic. First of all, I'm entry level. Why would I not want more money? And second, it is very attainable to make more money. There are side hustles. There are so many different things. You shouldn't have to apologize for wanting what you want out of your life. And that's all I'm trying to say.
And let me be very clear when I say it is a privilege to focus on fulfillment. It is a privilege to focus on finding your passion or finding your people instead of worrying about putting food on the table. And yes, I do think social media does amplify feelings of never having enough, never doing enough. That's not what I'm talking about. Because a daily sense of dread is not normal, and you don't have to normalize it. Settling for people or companionship or jobs or careers that you don't want does not have to be normalized. And anyone trying to sell you that mindset is not a reliable source. And I'm not telling you to want everything and want everything now. I'm just telling you that you don't have to settle and that you are worthy of putting in the work to build the life that you want for yourself. So if you have to cut some people off along the way, it might just have to happen. If you have to mute some people, that might just have to happen. Lastly, we gotta stop with the comparisons. Comparisons can be done subconsciously, especially when you're on social media. And my therapist had suggested that I write down all the ways that I feel inadequate when I'm scrolling. So I wrote down the many random feelings I felt while scrolling, and it was honestly astonishing. The amount of random comparisons that I was making on a daily basis just from my 15 minutes of scrolling was crazy. From, oh my gosh, I wish I had a friend group like that, or her clothes look so good, I wish I had better clothes, or she's so well spoken, I wish I spoke as well as that. We do not have time to be making comparisons. We need to focus on elevating ourselves. So you need to make use of the block or mute button and really stay conscious about what the media you are consuming does to you and how it makes you feel. Because I also will admit, I'm the biggest hate watcher. I will watch people fully knowing that for some reason I don't like their content or I don't resonate with their content. And it's not that they're doing anything wrong, just some content for some reason triggers me, but yet I'll still engage with it. What would happen if we only engaged in positive emotions? Let's try that. Comparisons can also be made based on your environment. Even when you know you don't want something, it can be easy to compare yourself to those around you who are doing it. So that's why I say you have to break out of your environment and go find different spaces to help empower yourself. And let me give you a tangible example. A lot of the people I'm around, whether it's at work or some friends, are interested in pursuing an MBA. As someone who likes sure bets and the idea of structure, when I'm around the people who are all going to get MBA and they're getting a lot of hype for it too, sometimes I think, should I be pursuing an MBA? And right now, I don't know what the future holds. I'm not interested in going back to school, okay? I have other things I want to do. But for some reason, sometimes when I'm in those spaces and that's all that's being promoted, it can make me feel like I need to do that, especially when it's a talking point at your job and socially. So in order to combat that, what I need to do is find spaces with more creatives, people who are interested in doing some of the similar things. So maybe that's attending more events. This is New York City. There's events I could go to. Or just connecting with people in the spaces that I want to pursue and seeing how they got there. Those little things can make a big difference when it comes from keeping you free and unstuck from those little mind games that your brain likes to play on you. So to sum up this section, it's remove physical and mental hurdles, get out your environment, go someplace new if you have to, whether it's for working or for living, and make sure you surround yourself with believers, people who support you, people who buy into what you're doing, and eliminate self-doubt and comparison, whether it's online or with the people that you're around. And lastly, while you're going through this, you must maintain perspective. It can be so easy to get caught up, but remember, you are on your own path. There's a reason why it wasn't 13 going on 25, 13 going on 22, or 13 going on 28. It's 13 going on 30 because these are the build years. These are the times when we are figuring our lives out. And even in that movie, she was still figuring her life out. She turned 30 and realized life isn't perfect. So that's why while you are going through this, maintain perspective and understand that if you are taking intentional steps to build the life you want, surround yourself with the people you want to surround yourself with, you're doing all you can. And that's all you could ask for. If you consistently show up for yourself, you're doing what needs to be done. Passion and hard work goes a long way. It won't happen overnight, but at least you're taking the steps to get there. An exercise I recommend you do just to keep that perspective is practice gratitude. It really does help if you write down things that you are grateful for every day, because even just being able to wake up every day is a blessing and something that shouldn't be overlooked. So when you practice gratitude, it helps ground you and allow you to really focus on the things that do matter. Next is to really focus on celebrating your small wins. I think we're often prone to downplay our accomplishments, but celebrate the things you're doing for yourself because that is a win. So I hope these 5 tips are helpful for you if you are in a quarter life crisis or simply just in a rut. I'll leave them down below in the description because I like actionable steps I can take, and having something to read and reference is so helpful for me. So I hope it's helpful for you if I share that. I just want you to know that if you are in a rut, I see you. I understand you. The quarter life crisis is so tough, but you can do it. You can take the steps and you can get out of it. So this is your sign to start. Don't waste your time working and chasing something you never wanted in the first place. Start designing and building the life that you want and deserve. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of My Dear Diary. I'm so happy you're here and on this journey with me. If this did resonate with you, please leave a review, subscribe, or share it with a friend. And I'd love to hear your stories. So DM me or leave in the comments. I will be reading. I have a bunch of topic ideas I'm so excited to put out and create. But if there's topics or advice that you specifically need help with, please let me know because I'd be more than happy to cater to you guys. And also do not forget to follow me on my socials if you want to hear more from me throughout the week. And subscribe to my other podcast I host with my sisters, Third Party, everywhere you get your podcasts. But until next time, be delusional, don't settle, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye.